And they say, well, Shanahan's been in the NFC, and look at this roster that he has. He has a stacked roster. He still can't win. And I questioned Niner fans, said, who the hell do you think built the roster? Shanahan and Lynch. They're in on this together, all right? So when you say, let's move off of Kyle Shanahan, like, let's be real here. Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, and we're talking about third down extensions. If you look at Washington yesterday, third downs. We're starting about red zone to third downs, but third downs yesterday, Washington, just want to get this out there. They were 9-15 on third down. 9-15, I believe. Anyway. Whoa. Hold on. Give me a second, Shasky. So I want to get this out. Third down efficiency, 8-15.
Wow.
So there you go, 8-15 on third downs. If you look at most of the winners this weekend, controlling the clock, taking the air out of the football, and also learning how to manage the game when it comes to clock management. Still in 2025, and Greg Olsen has been all over the timeline talking about this, the clock management for some of these coaches and teams, it's just befuddling. It's just it's criminal how badly some of these guys just mismanage the clock.
Well, last night in the Tampa Bay game, everybody's going crazy about Todd Bowles not calling a timeout. They had 2 timeouts left, and it was basically like second and short. And I'm thinking, okay, you needed to stop on third down and then to burn the timeout, and you still have a minute. It's plenty of time to march down the field and either match with the field goal. But when you didn't get to stop, it didn't matter. The clock didn't matter, and everyone was losing their minds. You got to call the timeout. No, you just needed to stop them on third down, then call the timeout, but you didn't get to stop. You grabbed the towel instead, and then he spun around the corner and ended up scoring. I wanted to get into Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin, and the reason why is I see Mike Tomlin and the success that he's had and how he sputtered out in the playoffs. They haven't won a playoff game since 2016. You're seeing all the different numbers. He's got the most wins in an 8-year span without a playoff win and blah, blah, blah.
It's stale. Come on.
Well, something I was thinking about is there's been a lot of rhetoric about Kyle Shanahan and his, is it over for Kyle Shanahan? Not from the majority of the famous, but from a loud group on the outside looking in. And I feel like if Shanahan is done with the Niners, it looks more like the Tomlin thing than him being garbage for 2, 3, 4, 5 straight seasons. I think he's just too, right now, I feel like he's too good to just be a 6-win team multiple times in a row. If it is ever time for Shanahan to go, it's probably like, hey, we're in the 9, 10, 11, 12 win zone, but we're not making the progress we want in the playoffs after 10 to 15 years. You know what I'm saying? That's probably more what it looks like than him being inept for multiple seasons in a row.
A lot of rhetoric about Tomlin staying there because of the losing seasons or the lack thereof of losing seasons, but you haven't won a playoff game since 16, 17. And so we look at their situation in Pittsburgh. I bet you Pittsburgh fans right now would be willing to trade Mike Tomlin straight up for Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that deal.
I wouldn't do that deal.
I would not do, but I
Pittsburgh fans would do that deal.
Yeah, they would.
So that's why I think Niner fans need to sit back for a second and relax and say, you know what? We got a damn good head coach. We have a good head coach that's going to put this team in position to win. And you'll just look at their staleness on offense. Russell Wilson obviously is a quarterback who's lost a little bit of something. There's no doubt. They need another wide receiver. They need another weapon. But their offense just feels to be outdated. The way they play football seems to be outdated. They didn't get a third down. Baltimore, by the way, 10-15 on third downs Saturday night. Well, you got to be able to extend drives. But what Tomlin has done, a lot of people say, well, he hasn't got his quarterback. Well, he's been there forever. They've gotten a Kenny Pickett route. They've gotten a Mason Rudolph route. It's not, at some point, you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, can we get back to an AFC divisional round game, let alone a wild card game or a playoff? This team is just one and done. And the standard in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is, no, we play for the Lombardi. We don't just play to get into the wild card game, and it's the way they faded down the stretch. They haven't won a game in over a month.
Yeah.
All right?
So if the season kept going, I think, let's say there was another 2 months, I don't think they would have won a lot of games.
They lost 4 straight, not to mention the playoff game. They weren't even in that game against Baltimore. So
that was a boring game.
So it was a very boring game. Well, it was boring on the Pittsburgh side.
Boring in the sense that I didn't think Pittsburgh had a chance. That's what I mean.
Right. But Derrick Henry and Lamar was must-watch television.
But your point on Mike Tomlin is a good one. And here's what I would say to you. Like the quarterback stuff, okay, fine. Let's throw the offense to the side. Tomlin's supposed to be known for, being a general and leading the troops. It looked like they kind of quit on him. And then secondarily, if you're giving up 300 rushing yards to your divisional rival, then what are you hanging your hat on? If Kyle Shanahan can't run the ball multiple years in a row, all right, we got problems. You know what I mean? That's what he hangs his hat on. Tomlin, you gave up 300 yards rushing. So forget the quarterback. You gave up 300 yards rushing.
Yep. See, this is funny. 650-888-957-9570. You cannot compare Tomlin to Shanahan. Tomlin is levels above Kyle Shanahan. Well, last season, on opening day in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Shanahan addressed Tomlin. The Niners went to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, what we thought would be a tough game, and smoked the Pittsburgh Steelers. It wasn't even close. Pittsburgh had one drive at the end of the first half where defense had a little bit of a meltdown, and after that, it was all Niners. Oh, that was Brock Purdy's first game back from the elbow injury, and he looked flawless in that game. So I'm not taking Mike Tomlin at this stage. Last time he won a playoff game, I think Shanahan has 8 playoff wins. 8 playoff wins since Tomlin won a playoff game. So I'm not here for the Tomlin thing. And I like Tomlin, but at one point I did think he was overrated as a head coach. And I was like, you know what? He's winning 9 games with these guys. I'll give him a benefit of the doubt.
No,
but the way they faded, it couldn't correct their season. They had full control of the AFC North to win that division going away. And they didn't. Why? Because of the same things that's ailed him over the last 6 to 7 years.
Well, Monte, look, he won a Super Bowl, all right? However many, 2007? Mm-hmm. Was that when it was? Okay, yep. And he went to another one and lost to Green Bay.
And a lot of people could say you won that with Bill Cowher's team.
Okay.
That's what some people will say.
That's
what some people will say. I'm not going to do that to him.
No, I wouldn't.
But you did have Bruce Arians, a kid was Bruce Arians, who was on that staff with Bill Cowher for a long time. But continue.
No, the way I view this is pretty straightforward. It's not about what your resume looks like. It's about who are you right now, right? That's how the league is set up. This NFL, more than any other sport, is who are you this moment, right now? Mike McCarthy has a Super Bowl. Who is Mike McCarthy right now? Sean Payton has a Super Bowl. Now, there was a time where I was fading Sean Payton. I'm kind of buying some of that Sean Payton stock. I think he needed a change of scenery and a year off. I think he looks a little different. If you would have talked to people, 4 years ago, no one's taking Dan Campbell as a top 7-8 coach in the NFL. Today, I think a lot of people are, right? Because of the body of work that he's done. At one point, when he was the interim coach in Miami, people laughed at the notion of Dan Campbell being your head coach. Nick Sirianni, 1 year ago, how'd you look at him? How do you look at him now? You know what I mean? So these things we got to know who you are right now. And look, Shanahan had a bad season right now. I believe if both coaches were out on the open market right now, Shanahan, 7 or 8 out of 10 times would be taken over Mike Tomlin.
Wow. The Steelers have not, because I'm with you. I think in our own bubble, there's a lot of people that are so down on Kyle Shanahan, and they say, well, Shanahan's been in the NFC, and look at this roster that he has. He has a stacked roster. He still can't win. And I questioned Niner fans, said, who the hell do you think built the roster? Who the hell built the roster out here in San Francisco? Shanahan and Lynch. They got their fingerprints all over this roster. You could talk about every single whiff, and you could try to dissect, well, was that a Lynch pick or a Shanahan pick? They're in on this together, all right? This is their baby. They've built this thing into a bully and built one of the best rosters in football. So when you say, let's move off of Kyle Shanahan, do you really want to go down the Mike Tomlin route, who hasn't won a playoff game since the 2016 season, when they won an ugly game, when they won a couple games against the Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs? Let's be real here. Let's be real about what's going on in San Francisco compared to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh would die for Kyle Shanahan.
I mean, it's just, I think it's foolish. I think Tomlin's a nice guy. I like him. I think he's, for example, if I'm the Chicago Bears and I've been dysfunctional forever,
right?
I could make an argument I would trade multiple picks for Mike Tomlin just to get stabilized. I think you could do a lot worse than Mike Tomlin. But I think Shanahan's on a whole nother level than him.
Yep.
And it just is what it is. That's my personal belief. And, if Shanahan puts together multiple 6-11 seasons back-to-back, well, then now we're going to have a different conversation. Right. But we're not there yet.
But see, the same excuses that Tomlin gets from fans is not warranted to Kyle Shanahan.
What's that?
Well, Tomlin doesn't have the personnel. Tomlin this and that. Tomlin doesn't have the quarterback. Tomlin doesn't have this, and Tomlin doesn't have that. Well, Shanahan doesn't have it. What excuses are we making? We blame it all on the head coach. We go all to the coach. We don't blame it on the personnel. See, players play. Coaches coach. And so in one instance in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we're going to blame it all on the players, right? Oh, it's Russ, it's Pickens, it's Watts not healthy, this and that. We come out here to San Francisco, it's Shanahan didn't do this, and Shanahan didn't do that. And I actually think this past season was more so on the players than it was on Shanahan.
I mean, we read it off. I have all of the salary cap stuff right now. Name me one of the top paid players who had a great year.
Exactly.
On the Niners.
George Kittle.
Exactly, right? And look, I probably sounded like a hater at the end of last week, but I was just trying to give you my honest opinion. I thought Fred Warner didn't really play like a Pro Bowler and an all-pro player for the back half of the year. Now, I'm not saying here grinding tape of every linebacker in the league. I'm just like, based on what I expect from Fred Warner, I didn't think he had a great back in the year. He was hurt. He was hurt. I love him. I was valiant that he was out there. He's a freaking gladiator and an all-time Niner. But like, and he gave me everything that he was worth. But let's be real. He didn't have one of his signature Fred seasons from start to finish. Kittle did, and that was about it.
650. Do I have to call in on this? You guys are homers. How many Super Bowls did Shanahan lose since Tomlin won? How many losing seasons? And who the hell did Tomlin have on his team? Shanahan has a full all-pro team. Well, again, Shanahan helped build the all-pro team. What has Tomlin done out there in Pittsburgh? He has a great relationship with the GM, Omar Khan, out there in Pittsburgh. They've been together for over 20 years. They draft well, right? Pittsburgh, everybody says Pittsburgh always drafts well. Oh, look at Pickens, look at Najee, look at Jalen Ward, look at all these guys they have. I mean, come on.
Well, after one drive, watching that game, I think we all felt the same way. Pittsburgh's done. Right? Like, one drive. I saw one drive, and I was like, yeah, Pittsburgh has no chance.
No chance.
And maybe I'm just jumping the gun, but it's like I've kind of watched this team for the last month or so, and there's not a whole lot there offensively. Whereas with the Niners, I've seen them come back multiple times during the Shanahan era in a playoff game. I mean, so I think that, and recent memory, so I think you got to be realistic with this.
And think about those drives. The second drive, when they go up 14-0 in Baltimore, they were at 13 plays for 85 yards, all run plays. Against the big bad Pittsburgh Steelers, you got the ball just shoved down your throat. Then the first drive, when they went on a 13-play, 95-yard drive, and I believe they threw one pass play.
Yeah.
Come on, this is the big bad Pittsburgh Steelers.
You said it again. They're bad. They're bad Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah. But I like the coach. I don't think he's the worst. He's been there 18 years. It's okay. To me, this is a stale. He needs a jolt. Andy Reid was a good coach at Philadelphia. It ran its course.
I mean, it's literally the history of the Steelers, as you guys are talking about. Chuck Noll, long time.
Yes.
Got long in the tooth. Ran its course. Bill Cowher, it ran its course. Mike Tomlin. It's run 3 coaches since the 70s. It's just nuts, by the way.
Cowher left on top, winning that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And it was like basically like, I think that he had one more year. I was like, yeah, I'm done.
I still feel like he could like kick all of our butts in an arm wrestling?
Oh,
like
the chin.
That guy's probably got the firmest handshake of anyone ever.
Is he one of the guys at Ohio State, Notre Dame? Those third and short situations where Ohio State is 4th and 1, 3rd and short, 4th and 2, you get an extra effort on second down. The tight end set up a 4th and 1 by just having extra efforts. You're able to run the ball in those short yardage situations, and you see Texas, dumbass toss play on second down. It's just unbelievably bad. It's unbelievable. You blew the game. You blew the game right there. Sorry. And so the internet.
He was not a great president.
The internet, which is great, and what they do, they love to dig up stuff. In the Red River shootout a couple years ago, Texas had a 1st and goal at like the 1-yard line. And Sark rammed it right up the middle, like 2 straight plays, or maybe even 3 straight plays. They didn't try to throw it on 4th down. Or no, they may have got stuffed on 4 straight run plays, but it was going all over the internet. It's like, look at Sark's goal line offense. It's awful. Just terrible. Terrible.
Gosh, you asked a question going into the break about Niner fans, you're watching this, and I guess I have 2 questions for Niner fans. Like, seeing all the playoffs, what's the number one need for the Niners this offseason? Whether it's the draft, free agency, whatever. I think you would maybe subscribe to offensive line.
Just upgrading the O-line. I need O-line. I need O-line, D-line, wherever it comes from.
Like what's the separator between the teams that you're seeing right now in the playoffs and where the Niners are at?
It's the trenches.
And then I guess you were asking if there's a player that you would, move heaven and earth for, to move up for, who is that player?
Yeah, we could do that one a little later.
Okay.
Now that we're stuck on the playoffs and looking at these teams and looking at what we saw over the weekend, I want to know if Niner fans feel better about their prospects to compete for a Super Bowl next season. How much? Because as a Niner fan,
far away.
Yeah, because as a Niner fan, I felt good. I've said, "Oh, that's how Green Bay looked." Niners could beat Green Bay if they're healthy.
I think so.
And really, with Brendan Allen, the game was kind of close for a little bit. Then it got out ahead in the second half or whatnot because you didn't have the manpower. But I'm looking at Tampa Bay and I'm saying, Mike Evans is great.
Yeah.
McMillan's going to be good. Bucky Irving is a hell of a back. Baker's really good. But you know what? You can hang with. They're not that much better than the Niners.
Well, you did beat them already this year.
You beat them, but Mike Evans, I understand, didn't play or whatnot. They weren't committed to Bucky Irving. Yeah, the Niners were hurt, no doubt. But watching with Dayton Daniels, how they add to that team, they're going to be a problem.
But they're a team that I really like to point out because I didn't see them taking this leap forward, right? I just didn't. And then Philadelphia and Washington give me a lot of hope. Philadelphia in one offseason just kind of retinkered everything they have in the back end of that defense, and then bringing in Saquon, and then boom, like an automatic jolt forward. Mm-hmm. And then Washington shows you, if you just get the right guys back in certain spots, you could take a quantum leap forward, and your fan base can feel hopeful. So I actually think that the Niners, they're going to have.
Don't you feel a lot better? Don't you feel a lot better after you just step away from the season?
But they have.
You let these, of course, they got to hit free agency.
For me, if I just moved O-line to the side. Because I think you're on O-line, and I agree.
No, I'm on it. No, I need an opposite edge rusher too.
Well, that's my number one.
In the scheme change,
I would agree, but I think upgrading personnel on defense is actually more important. I don't think you can have a garbage defense and advance in the playoffs.
You can't.
You just can't. You can't. We were garbage this year on D. It's okay. Niner fans, admit it. You were garbage this year on defense.
You know what though? Sometimes your offense can be your best defense. Right now, I think Buffalo, right, their offense is so good that it alleviates some of the stress off their defense. So where the defense, I just need a couple stops. We're going to go up 2 possessions, and that will in turn put pressure on these opposing teams that have to keep up with this. But I'm with you. Edge rusher, look, they go hand in hand. I'm not saying that leaps and bounds. I need offensive line over defensive line. If there's a stud edge rusher in the first round, I need to grab that guy away.
I'm going to make a statement here, and I said it to you guys in the thread last night. I did like a deep dive on all these pass rushers, and there's a lot of them that I like. Like, there's a lot of dudes I like. To me, the kid from Penn State feels miles above everyone else. I'm talking about Abdul Carter. And this is going to sound crazy because I know we've done this, and it didn't work out in terms of trading up, and it was for a quarterback. I get it. I know. And it's with a lot of risk. I would trade next year's first-round pick to move up to go get Abdul Carter if I'm the Niners in a heartbeat. People are comping him to Micah Parsons as a clone, and I see it, and I believe it. Whoa. This dude is a freak, and I think he would be the ultimate pairing alongside with Bosa. It dramatically changes your front seven like that.
It's D Ford. It's D Ford all over again. By the way, some breaking news from Philadelphia. This doesn't make me feel good about my Super Bowl pick, but again, if Philadelphia doesn't win the Super Bowl, I'm all smiles.
What's the breaking news?
Kobe Dean. Out for the rest of the season. Torn patellar tendon in his knee. He's out for the playoffs. It's a horrible injury. You saw him. He's not walking well. He left the stadium on crutches, so he's out for the year. Philadelphia middle linebacker, Kobe Dean out of Georgia, out for the rest of the playoffs. It could be out for portions of next season. Ugh. So that's tough. But if there's an edge rusher, if I can't get Abdul Carter, because I'm with you, Abdul Carter is just he flashes on tape. The first time I ever saw him play, I was like, okay, that's Chop Robinson. That's Micah Parsons. That's LeVar Arrington. He's the next great Penn State defensive end / pass rusher. I'm not talking about Courtney Brown. I'm talking about LeVar Arrington. I'm talking about Chop Robinson and Micah Parsons. He's
Frank.
He gets off the snap so damn fast. Like on NCAA, he's a cheat code. He just hike it, sack, boom. You know what I'm saying? This guy's legit. There's no doubt. And I don't think the Niners are going to be able to get him. I don't. You're going to have to trade heaven and earth. But could you get Myles Garrett for that number 11 pick? And because Cleveland's going to have to do something there.
You saw Dan Orlovsky was suggesting this last week. A lot of people have suggested this. Cleveland is in full rebuild mode, and because of the Deshaun Watson money, They're kind of stuck in neutral.
Oh, the cap is a mess.
And Miles wants to play for a contender. I mean, I thought we got jobbed by ourselves when we won that stupid game down the stretch with Chip Kelly, and we basically cost ourselves Myles Garrett in the draft, and we ended up getting the second pick instead of the number 1 pick. This would right a wrong. Look, I would do it in a heartbeat. But can you afford it? This goes back to the quarterback hunt. I don't know. I don't know if they can. I feel like this is where Parag, you want to earn your money? Finagle this cap so we can fit this in here.
This is a Parag specialty.
Bosa and Myles Garrett.
And you still switch the scheme up. So what are they going to do at defensive coordinator? I've heard nothing around, by the way, Tom Allen leaving Penn State to go be the DC at Clemson. He's going to go join Dabo Swinney. But this draft, I just want to know from Niner fans, just, because we're going to get into the draft all offseason. We're going to get into the names. The combine will pop up.
I'm so
40
deep
times
in
will come up.
I feel like I'm going down the rabbit hole.
It's refreshing because the last couple of years, you said this last week, we haven't paid attention to the draft. And the NFL draft is one of my favorite events of the year.
Me too.
I love the NFL draft. That's why I love college football, because you get to follow these players and watch them go from teenagers, little babies, to grown-ass men balling on Sundays. Like, I still remember like it was yesterday when Saquon Barkley had that crazy run in the Rose Bowl against USC. It's like, wow, who is that? Where's he going? That's Saquon Barkley, folks. You know what I'm saying?
And now he's dominating in the NFL.
Now he's dominating. Derrick Henry in Alabama. He had torched Florida one year, or torched LSU. I'm thinking to myself, why isn't he going in the first round?
He wasn't even that great the first couple years.
But you know what? He started rolling.
I know for a lot, there's so many great running backs. To me, he's a top 5 running back for me. For me, my
all
personal,
time?
My personal list.
Yeah,
I love him so much.
I think for 1 yard.
For your life?
For
I
my
love
life,
that game.
Yeah,
my life on the line, 1 yard.
I think I'm going Derrick Henry.
There's an argument for Adrian Peterson.
Marshawn Lynch are okay. Yeah. Well, no doubt about that. I'm going Derrick Henry. He's that good, and and he can break off the 99-yard run.
So awesome.
He's got speed. He's got everything.
So awesome.
Everything. But if I'm the Niners, and there's a way to get Myles Garrett, sure. Maybe you do that.
Well, what about the reports over the weekend after the loss to for the Chargers? Khalil Mack is a free agent, and he was basically saying that, he doesn't know if he's going to play in the NFL next year. I don't know how much he's got left in the tank, but it wouldn't cost you a draft pick. You'd obviously have to sign him. Now, the Chargers, I guess, could franchise him.
Yeah.
He's made a lot of money. He is long in the tooth. I don't know how much he has left. Does that intrigue you?
That does intrigue me. He's 33 years old. He just lost all 5 of his playoff games. He's never won a playoff game before.
Josh Jacobs still yet to win one as well.
Yep.
Man. Hate to see it.
The Raider way.
Hate to see it.
I do hate on Khalil Mack.
Yeah, he should have gone to the Bears. Yeah, he did great there. Yeah. Did great to Chargers.
No, as someone who watches that division,
they didn't have enough money in escrow, Spadoni.
Hate to see it.
How much does he have left?
Well, let's look at his stats, Joe Shasky, as we pull this up together, because he's going to be 34 in February.
Okay.
He had 6 sacks this year, not great. 2 forced fumbles in 2024. He has Joey Bosa on the other side, so their defense is good overall, but he's probably looking at a team that's going to think about winning a Super Bowl next year.
Well, the season before he had 17 sacks, but didn't 6 come against the Raiders?
Aiden O'Connell in week 1. Yeah.
Yeah. So look, he's going to get you.
Count.
He gets you around. He's still a threat. He's still a problem. If I could get him on a cheap deal, sure. But I need the Niners keep whiffing on it. Ever since D4 went down with the injury, that was the blueprint. Opposite of Bosa, give me the speed, and I got the power on the other side. And since then, that has been that position, whether it's Drake Jackson, Chase Young, Randy Gregory, Leonard Floyd, it just has not worked out well for the 49ers.
I know the offensive line, and maybe even quarterback, watching some of these quarterbacks, I watch Josh Allen, and I'm just like, this guy is just on a whole nother planet. So I understand being envious about that. The thing I'm most envious about is that the Niners, when they go on these deep runs, typically have an elite front 7. That is no longer the case. And I think that as I look around the NFL over the weekend and I'm watching all these games, the thing I keep coming back to is that I don't think our front 7 is anywhere near good enough currently to be able to be a factor in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that is the area I keep coming back to, and I go to edge rusher, I go to another linebacker, an off-ball linebacker. They've got some work to do there. I think it can be done, but they've got a lot of work to do in that area, and that's the area for me as I watch these other teams where I feel like, we're not as good up front.
Well, I think that's where John Lynch comes into play. As a player in Tampa Bay, he knows what kept them in football games. Their defense, their front seven, their defensive line, their linebackers, their secondary played so well off each other. And it's not like they need a massive overhaul defensively. I got some good corners in Diablo Lenore and Renardo Green. I got a safety in Malik Mustafa where I could plug and play somewhere. It's going to knock the living snot out of somebody. Yeah. I have Fred Warner, all right? I have Fred Warner. It's easy to build around a Fred Warner who played most of the season with a fractured ankle and is a gladiator.
Even if he starts to slow down, Bobby Wagner's still making plays.
Right. He's still
like 20 years in the league.
Fred Warner could make up for some of the physical limitations that he may have in the future with his mind and his great IQ.
I agree.
He's seen everything.
Instincts.
And then you get Nick Bosa. And we're all down on Nick Bosa. Trust me, I am.
But he's still a good player.
But he's still a serviceable player who has the potential to be great. The other side, you got to do it, and you got to have something inside. The defensive tackles have to improve with the 49ers. And I hate going down that rabbit hole. I really don't want to see them draft defensive tackles. But you see Vita Vea. You see what's going on in Philadelphia with Jalen Carter. You see what's going on inside with Baltimore. You see what's going on inside with Ed Oliver and the Buffalo Bills. Look, you got to have some interior pressure. And you got to have guys who are going to be able to be stout against the run. DJ Jones is going to be a free agent. Can I bring him back to the Bay Area?
I would love that. I would love
DJ
that.
Jones still making plays.
I would love that. I do think, like, once we find out the number on Brock Purdy and when it hits the books, we'll have a better idea of how much they're going to be able to spend in free agency.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I think it's a big, when I look at the draft, and I'm going back and forth here, but when I look at the draft, there's a lot of cornerbacks being taken in the first round, which is advantageous for the Niners because this is one of the first times in a long time I don't think we need a corner.
Nah, no doubt.
And so if all these corners go off the board and some of these quarterbacks go off the board, I think we're going to be sitting pretty if we don't end up trading the 11th pick. I think we got a lot of guys falling into our lap.
Now you have to hit on this edge rusher.
For sure.
Because if it's not Abdul Carter, you have to be sure. Like they hit on, I thought Drake Jackson would be a good pick. And he had that Pittsburgh game where he had 3 sacks and all. Like, finally, Drake Jackson is coming in here.
I still like the player. I know.
I just, what is his?
Sounds like I sound like a moron.
Can you pull up his status, Drake Jackson? Because we saw him in training camp, and he goes,
on the cart.
he was on the cart.
Shasky, I hear on the Drake Jackson, there was a lot to like about him physically and how he could play.
He was athletic.
He was. He's very bendy, very mobile, but he just can't get on the field.
Yeah, 100%. I'll just hurt like crazy. And we saw him at training camp. Me and B walk up and he's sitting on the cart.
Right.
And I'm talking to him. He's like, I'm just not there yet. I'll talk to you guys when I'm there. And I'm thinking, he's only a couple days away.
What do you think about
this? He didn't play a snap.
What do you think about this James Pierce Jr. guy from Tennessee?
It's intriguing. Similar to some of the guys that I like from A&M. There's a 1-year wonder status to it. And that is
Jack Sawyer is popping up the charts.
He's not bendy enough. He's too stiff.
On NFL Draft Buzz, he's like number 5. Could you imagine Nick Bosa slamming it? Just slamming the table. Go get me Jack Sawyer.
When I see him wearing the 33 and being a white linebacker from Ohio State, I think of the
Andy Katzenmoyer.
No, the other guy who was
James
Laurinaitis, who's Legion of Doom. His
was
dad
he 33?
What?
James Laurinaitis was 33?
He was, but he was on the Rams. So,
but I just remember all those white guys. It was Vrabel.
Yeah.
Then it was A.J. Hawk. He had Andy Katzenmoyer. Remember him?
Andy Katzenmoyer.
Katzenmoyer was unbelievable. They had a bunch of dudes.
It's not do or die, but it's close for Ewers. Pressure comes. Sawyer knocked it out and picks it up. Jack Sawyer headed down the sidelines. Ohio State scoop and score and dagger from 82 yards.
Quinn Ewers. I saw that coming a mile. Yeah, Laurinaitis also wore 33.
Yeah, Laurinaitis wore 33.
Yeah, in Ohio State.
Yeah, he was
I
so
love the
overhyped.
Legion of Doom, so I rooted for him.
No, I rooted for him too. But they've always had the white linebacker at Ohio State. Who's at number 44? JT from Ohio State, the defensive end. I'm intrigued with him as well as maybe a day 2 pick. He's rated 12th all overall on some of these prospects here. But let's go to Rob and San Bruno real quick because I don't think Rob is feeling better about the Niners. Rob, come on. I feel a lot better about the Niners moving forward. You watch these NFC teams, you watch these playoffs, a lot of mediocre football being played.
Oh, who cares?
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole NFC West was mediocre, but the Niners were 1-5 in the mediocre NFC West. So it just tells you they're not good enough. Look, I'm going to tell you this. I'm looking at these defenses and these quarterbacks who can the read pass run option. I don't think our defense line is athletic enough to even stop that. Be honest with you. We're not athletic. We're not big in the middle. People seem to forget. When Cal got here, Armstead and Buckner was already here. You had other guys that played roles in when we got to the end of the Super Bowl in 2019. A lot of them D-linemen were already drafted. It was already here. Then was high picks. Buckner was a high pick. Armstead was a high pick. So if we want to get back to doing what got us here, we got to invest in the defensive line. Period. People say the offensive line. Me personally, I don't really care for the offensive line because they have shown you they're not going to draft a guard in the first round.
No,
it's not happening.
I think they're going to go free agency on O-line. I think they're going to sign one of these guards. There's a lot of guards available.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that either. But who's your draft guy? Who's the guy you want to see the Niners draft? Who do you want to see them go up for, move up for? Who's your draft crush right now, Rob?
I don't really watch a lot of college football like I used to. But what I'm gonna say, when we go off of need, I think if we're gonna do anything, I hate to say it, but we got to do what made us good. We got to go back and get a stout player who can play inside, or we got to get a pass rusher.
Yep.
If we can't get one of those guys the first few picks, I want Travis Hunter. I feel like with him, we put him at free safety. He can be the next Ed Reed, how we had. He can be a way better Jimmy Ward to what we had him playing either safety position.
Well, he was very valuable.
He can play the slot.
Yeah.
He can play the slot. He can play outside. So that's my opinion. I want Travis Hunter, but if we can't get him, I think we need to go interior line because we got to be able to stop the run, and then we got to get some athleticism.
And let me give you. And Travis Hunter, his favorite team, his favorite team too is the 49ers. Travis Hunter. He said that. He goes, my favorite team, the 49ers. I went back in. I woke back up and rewind.
Packers fell asleep too.
Yeah, it was like, I was like, Chess was like, Papa, I want to watch Miraculous Ladybug on the TV. So I grabbed the iPad, put the iPad up, and so I was laying on the couch, and I'm like dozing off. I was dozing off. Like the crowd felt dead. Brady.
Not good.
Yeah, not good.
Well, I mean, he's working on interviews.
It's working very hard.
It's working very hard for the silver and black.
Love that guy.
So I went back and I saw that. I was like, well, how did the Green Bay get in this game? And I guess there was some drama for a little bit.
Well, I'll give you one name that I didn't know was in the league. But when I saw Oren Burks playing base defense for the Philadelphia Eagles, I was like, I don't think this team can win a Super Bowl. I'm just being real, B. And he had a big time play. There's no way that Green Bay didn't pick up that ball. But Oren Burks on base defense?
Yeah, that whole review where they didn't get the ball back to Green Bay
was awful.
But he did have the hit. And I was like,
that was a huge hit.
When Kevin Burkhardt said, Oren Burks had a hit, I said,
he's in the league?
I was like, I recognize that name. Oh, yeah, that was the guy in the Super Bowl. Fred Warner saying, get your ass over here. And I'm yelling at Chasky. He can't even line up. Oh, there's Kelsey wide open. Key third down. Over and over again. So, yes, if he's playing in place of Nakobe Dean, they better look at the free agent market, try to get one of these linebackers who's on the street. Anybody's better than Oren Burks. You will be in trouble. That's why I want to see Minnesota win. Go play Philadelphia and get these busters out of here.
So you're all in on Minnesota, the experience, huh? I never would have thought that you were a, Kevin O'Connell, Sam Darnold guy.
I like Kevin O'Connell. I didn't say I was a Sam Darnold guy. I like Kevin O'Connell.
It's been a great story for Sam Darnold.
I love Justin Jefferson.
I'm happy with Sam Darnold.
I love Van Ginkel.
I'm happy with Cheddar.
It's legit defense they got. That is true.
This is a huge. Can you imagine? We come in tomorrow morning, and we'll see what the Warriors do, but we come in tomorrow morning, and Sam Darnold lights up the Rams.
Well, do you look at Jaden Daniels?
You imagine how Niner fans is going to be thinking?
We put a lot of weight into these playoff games, and rightfully, like legacies are on line. The margins are so thin in all these games. Don't you wake up this morning and you look at Jaden Daniels a little different?
Oh, I look at him.
Even if you didn't watch all year. Let's say you didn't watch anything all year. Didn't you wake up and go, wow.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Well, I don't know if Niner fans really watched Jaden Daniels this year, but I think a lot of Niner fans maybe got a glimpse at him on Sunday Night Football a couple weeks ago in Atlanta. And I think maybe the shift happened there was like, oh, wait, Washington has something there.
He looks like the closest thing to Lamar Jackson in the league. I don't even think it's fair. He's putting them in the same sentence, but I mean, you could see
as Lamar Jackson wears the gold grills and the platinum grills. during games.
Jaden's incredible. Jaden's incredible.
He's incredible. No, there's no doubt about
level,
it.
But he's incredible.
No, but he's that threat where it's like, if you don't pay attention to him, he will break off a big run.
Exactly.
And just the threat of him leaving the pocket scares the living daylights out of the team. So that's why I can't wait to see what Eric Lynn has cooked up for Jaden Daniels in Washington Saturday evening in Detroit.
And so, like you're talking about Sam Darnold, I think with a big performance, we could wake up tomorrow morning, and I think a lot of people would feel similar to how, again, not exactly the same, but you'd feel, wow, like I'm really impressed with Sam Darnold. Or he goes out there and kind of stinks it up, and you're looking at him the way you look at Jordan Love and Justin Herbert this morning, which is it's not at that level yet.
If Darnold goes out there and goes like 22 of 29, 283, 3 touchdowns, you don't think we're going to get calls tomorrow saying the Niners should go all in on Sam Darnold and trade Brock Purdy for picks?
I think there's going to be Minnesota Viking fans saying trade J.J. McCarthy and sign Sam Darnold long term.
Now, these two teams faced each other earlier this season on Thursday Night Football, and the Rams outlasted the Vikings 30-20, but you had that atrocious no call in the end zone where Darnold got the face mask pulled by Young, and they didn't call it, and the Rams basically got it. What did they get, a safety on that play, I want to say? And they ended the game there, and they were up 28-20. But they really ran the ball down the Vikings' throats in that football game. Stafford, 25-34, 279, 4 touchdowns, and again, they're going to be playing with heavy hearts. Heavy hearts down there in Glendale, Arizona, so I don't know where to go with this game. I really don't. But Niner fans, how closely will you be watching Sam Darnold, if any? 888-957-9570. How closely will you be watching Sam Darnold? Is there anything, do you feel better about your situation, 49er fans, after watching this weekend of Wild Card Weekend? You look around the league, like the Chargers, we'll see about them. The Denver Broncos, we'll see about them. Lamar Jackson, Baltimore, on a different level. Buffalo's on a different level. But after watching Green Bay look very vanilla on both sides of the football, Philadelphia did not look impressive in that football game outside of Saquon Barkley.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up Philadelphia because I'm looking at all the quarterbacks and I'm comparing them to Brock, right? Because it's natural. I get people comparing everybody to Brock. Like Josh Allen and Lamar, they're in their own like category.
They're the go to 4.
Right?
Part of the go to 4.
You know, I never seen Brock Purdy have a performance like Justin Herbert had. Now, there's context. Herbert doesn't have a lot of weapons, but he looked pretty bad.
Yeah.
He looked pretty bad. I think it's pretty fair to say. But Jordan Love looked pretty bad. You know, I didn't think he looked good at all, really.
No, Jordan Love did not look good.
Okay. Jaden Daniels looked really good. No, really good. And for your first ever game on the road in the playoffs, like that was, I'm impressed. He can go out and lose 49-0 next week, and I'll still feel really good about it.
You know what? Baker Mayfield looked pretty good. He was 15-18 yesterday.
So I had him written down. You thought he looked good. I thought so too.
He's a tough SOB, man. That run, I mean, that fumble is kind of, he took the responsibility. So Baker Mayfield had an excellent season.
And he had a great run, which galvanized them.
Into the first half.
Yeah, and then C.J. Stroud, I thought, we had talked about this going into the weekend. I thought C.J. Stroud had a really nice performance that kind of washes away some of the stuff from the regular season because we know the playoffs, everything's elevated. Your regular season can become moot with 2 bad picks, you know, or your regular season can be looked at side-eyed if you underperform and then you elevate yourself in the playoffs.
What about Bo Nix?
See, I think Bo Nix, I look at him and I go, I don't think he lost them that game. I'm really encouraged about where he is as a player. He won me over this year.
I don't know if he lost him that game, but boy, he
looked like a rookie.
Yeah, he looked like a rookie not to be able to convert on third down. That's the biggest thing. You need quarterbacks to convert on third down. He did not play well on third down. Jay Daniels did. I thought Baker had time. Tampa Bay was like 5-9 on third down. The only problem was Washington would hold on to that football and eat clock, which is what they're going to have to do against Detroit next week. And you see the theme here in the playoffs: ball control, take the eye out of the football, keep your defense off the field, minimize their opportunities offensively. It's strategy has been going on for many, many years in the NFL. But Bo Nix only walking out of that game with 7 points. I thought they left a lot on the table. So I don't know about Bo. I'm very, like, Bo Nix in year 2 intrigues the living heck out of me. What do they add? Will they get a running back? Will they try to trade up for Ashton Jinty because they need a running back in Denver? They need a tight end. Their defense is pretty set. We'll see if they lose Vance Joseph. They have some key free agents, no doubt about that. But I feel after that weekend, Do you feel better about having Brock Purdy as your quarterback, or do you feel worse about having Brock Purdy as your quarterback? 888-957-9570 is the number. Somebody on the text site, Brock Purdy ain't making that Bo Nix throw. Is he or is he not?
I thought that Bo looked like a guy in his first start on the road in the playoffs. But I didn't think he played, so bad. I think that Buffalo's that good. That's kind of where I was going down. I looked at the Jalen Hurts performance, and it kind of reminded me of a few Brock playoff performances. Nothing egregious, right? I thought he managed the game really well. Missed some throws that could have put that game away, I feel like, a little earlier. But again, I'm iffy on Jalen Hurts, but I understand why they paid him. I understand why he's their quarterback, and he might just be the right guy for that environment.
Seeing him in that Super Bowl, do you give him more clout because of the way he played against Kansas City in that Super Bowl?
Oh, he absolutely was. Well, he was dominant that whole year.
Yeah.
But that game, how could you not come away impressed, even though he had some turnovers that cost them?
Now he's got a legit coordinator, Kellen Moore. He's had a solid season. We know what he can do with his legs. In Philadelphia, it doesn't seem like they don't ask him to do a lot in the pass game. It's a lot of power slants. It's a lot of hitches, comeback routes, out routes, fade routes, deep balls, deep post. But I did like his patience on that first touchdown. Show up patience in the pocket. He sat there. They gave him great protection, and then he fires one into the back of the end zone to Jock Dotson. So he's fine. But this is a big game coming up for him in the divisional run. They're all big. Philadelphia wants to win the Super Bowl. They have a roster that's Super Bowl worthy. But are we feeling better about Brock Purdy? Because I know a lot of Niner fans watched it through the Brock Purdy prism. There's a lot of conversation. Well, Brock Purdy's better than this guy. Wait, are you serious? Brock Purdy's better than that guy? I would rather have Brock Purdy than this. How are we feeling about Brock after watching the weekend of playoff football? And that's why I think a lot of Niner fans also are reserving judgment for tonight. When they see Sam Darnold against the LA Rams, a team that we see 2 times a season, Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, Niner fans, I think, are going to be heavily invested in tonight's game.
I think you're right. The one thing that I was looking at with all the quarterbacks, I didn't hear anything about any of them coming into the game banged up, which is kind of rare. Typically a quarterback might come
Hurts.
In. What?
Other than Hurts.
I guess Hurts. No,
and
you're right.
Then you had Jordan Love with the elbow.
But you know what I mean? Like sometimes guys have a leg, they got a shoulder, they got ribs or whatever. I thought a lot of these teams had opportunities to give quarterbacks rest down the stretch, and you got some of their best shots. I get you're right. Jalen Hurts is actually the one guy that did come in.
And then Jordan Love too. He had the elbow. Remember,
Jordan Love was banged up all year.
Yeah,
but I didn't think he played well all year either.
I think he regressed.
Yeah,
I think he regressed. But also, I think we also need to take that situation in Green Bay and say, wow, very similar to Brock Purdy in terms of turnover at the wide receiver position. You lose your deep threat before the wild card round. And I don't think highly of Christian Watson. I think he's underwhelmed since he's been in the league. He's dealt with a lot of injuries, particularly hamstring injuries. Now he's got a torn ACL. But a lot of their wide receivers were in and out of the lineup. So as a young quarterback, yeah, sure, you've got the running game with Josh Jacobs. But those timing routes, the communication, where are you supposed to be? Did I throw this interception because you ran the wrong route? Hey, where are we on the same page with this deep route? It just shows that continuity is key moving into the playoffs. The thing with Buffalo is, they lost Keon Coleman, but Shakir's been in that lineup. He's been in that lineup. They've had their tight ends for the most part. They've had their running backs for the most part. Their offensive line has been intact. When you could go through the season and have your wide receivers playing at a high level, play for most of the season, you need that continuity. So I'm going to stall Jordan Love out, although next season going into it, the hype on him, he's got to perform at a higher level. There's no doubt. He left a lot on the table. But also I look at the situation and say, boy, there's a lot of turnover at the wide receiver position. That's why I look at Brock Purdy and say, boy, that offensive line didn't do him no favors.
No.
And in the wide receiver position, didn't do him no favors either.
The other takeaway is special teams.
Oh, wow.
I mean, how could you not watch these games and not think about how poorly the Niners played special teams all year and think that, like, even if they had made it into the playoffs, they were going to lose this, like, one of these games, and special teams would have factored in heavily. Seeing, obviously, missed kicks, the doink that went in last night in that game, fumbles on kick returns. Like, all I kept thinking was, like, man, the Niners special teams was not good enough.
McManus missed the field goal. They could have made it 10-3 right before half.
Yeah.
This is a kick. Will Lutz missing that kick for Denver. You know, that doinker was loud.
Huh.
That doinker was loud in Orchard Park. You know
I
what I'm
still
saying?
can't believe that last one went in the Commander game. I thought there was, because he's coming in,
Right.
and he's doing this thing with his hair.
Well, no, did you see him? He was like putting on his tennis shoe. He had to put his sock back on. He had to put his tennis shoes
Total
back
OCD.
on. Yeah, he was freaking out.
But like the other part is, and somebody else said this, they took a knee. They went back like 3 or 4 yards.
Yeah.
If they went back 2 more yards, I don't think that ball goes in.
Yeah, no, it doesn't go in. 3 yards more, like
Like if they went backwards 1 or 2 more yards.
If Tampa Bay makes a tackle on Jaden Daniels,
That's what I'm saying.
It is 5 yards.
I don't think he makes
How
it.
crazy is that? Oh,
The
man.
margins, man.
I did kind of want to see Tampa at Philly. I did. But also, their quarters got hurt. Their starting quarters had to go zone defense. They couldn't play man.
What's 35's name? Dean, yeah. Yeah, they were
Jamel
attacking
Dean.
32.
Here it is, 601. After playoff football, it reminds me that Purdy is mid. I still will take all those quarterbacks over him. Who is Herbert throwing to? Love throwing to? Is that what you saw this weekend, Niner fans? 888-957-9570. Did it remind you that Purdy's mid?
No,
It's actually, for me, walking in here this morning, I'm telling myself, boy, we're kind of lucky to have Brock Purdy at quarterback.
Yeah,
looking around the league.
I think so. But I also think that Brock should be looking at it, and he'll never view it this way because these guys all want to make the most amount of money. I got to have talent around me.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't care how good you are. You got to have talent. You saw the Packers lose one of their guards, and it was like changed
everything. So injuries happen. And we look at the 49ers season, one injury could change the trajectory of your offense.
Well, and
it changes the entire game plan.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the point I've been trying to prove home. And look, I'm not trying to exonerate Purdy. Purdy had some missteps here.
I thought he had a down year.
He had a down year.
For his numbers.
He had a down year. The Detroit Monday night game, throwing those interceptions was awful. But you could also see that, boy, when you miss guys, things change a little bit. Things change. So, by the way, some breaking news in the NFL. Mike McCarthy, eligible to talk to other teams after midnight Tuesday. There still haven't been any negotiation on a new deal with the Dallas Cowboys. It's now looking like Mike McCarthy will indeed become a coach